Of all the incredible food I've tried in the Philippines, and trust me, I have a major sweet tooth, this one from Davao might just be the strangest. It's sweet, salty, and incredibly slimy, but in the best way possible. The locals I met at this gorgeous little seaside restaurant just called it their special pudding. They served it to me with a huge smile and a small bowl of spiced vinegar on the side, which I thought was a weird pairing for a dessert. But hey, when in Davao, they told me it was a true local delicacy, something you can only get this fresh right from the source. I took my first bite, and it was confusing and amazing. It slipped down my throat, cool and soft, with a taste that was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It was briny like the sea, but had this subtle, almost milky sweetness. The texture was the most shocking part, a long, soft, gelatinous body, almost like very tender calamari or a wobbly panna cotta. I thought, wow, another fantastic Filipino dessert discovery. Maybe it's made from a special kind of coconut or a rare sea plant. I was completely captivated, already planning how I'd describe this bizarre and delicious pudding to my friends back in Madrid. I happily took another spoonful, then another, my delight growing with each bite. I was in heaven, completely oblivious, as the locals watched me with a mix of amusement and pride. "You like it, Ma'am Sofia?" one of them asked, grinning. I beamed back, my mouth half full. "I love it. What is it made of?" My curiosity finally got the better of me. The group chuckled, and the woman who served me simply said, "It's a secret of the mangroves." Little did I know, they had left out one tiny, crucial, squirming detail about the main ingredient, and my whole world was about to be turned upside down. Let me set the scene. I'm in Davao City, in the southern Philippines, a place that's just an explosion of sights, sounds, and flavors. It's known as the fruit capital of the country, and you can smell the sweet scent of durian and mangosteen almost everywhere. My entire trip has been driven by one thing: food. I want to taste everything that makes this place unique, from the famous grilled tuna belly to the wild tropical fruits that look like they belong on another planet. I'd spent the morning exploring the city and found myself drawn to the coast. I ended up at a small, unassuming restaurant built on stilts over the water. It was perfect. The air was thick with salt, and the gentle lapping of waves against the wooden posts was the only soundtrack. I asked the owner, a wonderfully warm woman named Elena, to bring me something truly local, something I couldn't find anywhere else. Her eyes lit up. "Ah, for the adventurous," she said with a knowing smile. "I have just the thing, a special treat from the sea." A special treat? My mind immediately went to lech flan, the creamy caramel custard I'd fallen for in Manila, or maybe a new kind of buko pandan. I was excited. Filipino desserts had been a highlight of my trip. Elena soon returned with a small ceramic bowl. Inside was a cluster of long, pearly white, translucent things. They were sitting in a shallow pool of their own milky liquid. They looked incredibly strange, like oversized, boneless noodles or maybe some exotic jellyfish. They were glistening and undeniably slimy. She placed it in front of me alongside a tiny dish of dark liquid, which I now know was spiced coconut vinegar. A dessert with vinegar? I thought. How strange. But my travel motto has always been to trust the locals. They know best. So I pushed aside my hesitation and picked up my spoon. The first challenge was just getting it on the spoon. The pudding was wobbly and slippery, eluding my attempts like a playful fish. When I finally got a piece, I brought it to my nose. It smelled clean, fresh, and overwhelmingly of the ocean. It was the scent of low tide on a warm day, of salt and sea spray, not at all what I expected. The moment of truth arrived. I closed my eyes and went for it. The texture was the first thing that hit me. It was incredibly soft, yielding with no resistance, and then it just slipped. It was gummy, wobbly, and had a smoothness that felt totally alien. It wasn't chewy like squid. It was far more delicate, like jelly on the verge of melting. For a second, my brain stuttered, unable to categorize the feeling. This initial shock of the slimy texture almost made me recoil, but then the flavor began to unfold. It was surprisingly mild. There was a distinct saltiness from the sea, but underneath was a faint, almost creamy sweetness. It was subtle, not sugary, but a natural sweetness that reminded me a bit of a fresh oyster without the metallic aftertaste. It was delicious, genuinely, shockingly delicious. The strangeness of the texture was quickly being overshadowed by the unique and pleasant taste. "This is amazing," I exclaimed to Elena, who was watching my every move. "What do you call this?" "Here, we call it Tamilok," she said, the word rolling off her tongue. "It's a very special food." I dipped another piece, this time into the vinegar as she had silently motioned. The sharp, acidic tang of the vinegar cut through the richness and made the subtle flavors pop. The chili added a tiny spark of heat. Sweet, salty, sour, spicy, all in one bizarre, slithering bite. I couldn't get enough. I finished the whole bowl, feeling immensely proud of my adventurous spirit. I had conquered the slimy pudding and found a new favorite dish. I leaned back, satisfied, already composing the dramatic tale I would tell my family. I was so caught up in my own culinary triumph that I didn't notice the mischievous twinkle in Elena's eyes. "So, where do you get it? Can you just buy this Tamilok at the market?" She let out a hearty laugh. "Oh no, Mom, you cannot just buy it. You have to go find it. It grows inside wood." I blinked. Inside wood? Like a mushroom. I was so confused. How could something so soft and wet come from wood? "Something like that," she said, still smiling. "My nephew Jun, he is going to the mangroves this afternoon to harvest some. If you are not busy, you can go with him. You can see for yourself where your food comes from." An opportunity to solve the mystery of the pudding from the wood. I jumped at the chance. "I would love that," I said, my heart pounding with excitement. "Good," Elena said, her voice dropping to a more serious tone. "To really appreciate it, you have to see where it comes from. That's when things get interesting." And so, my journey into the heart of the Tamilok mystery began. An hour later, I was perched on the edge of a small wooden outrigger boat, a banker, with Elena's nephew Jun. His face was weathered by the sun and sea, but his eyes were bright and energetic. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who had spent his life on the water. We chugged away from the village, the drone of the engine a steady rhythm against the brilliant turquoise of the Davao Gulf. "So, Jun," I shouted over the noise, "your aunt tells me this Tamilok grows in wood. How is that possible?" Jun smiled, a wide, genuine smile that crinkled his eyes. "You will see, Ma'am Sofia. It is a gift from the mangroves." As we got closer, the open water gave way to a labyrinth of channels snaking through a dense, otherworldly forest. The trees stood on tangled prop roots, like stilts digging into the murky water. The air grew still and heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth, salt, and decaying leaves. Jun cut the engine, and the sudden silence was profound. He guided the banker with a long bamboo pole, pushing us deeper into the heart of the mangrove forest. "This brackish water," he explained, "is the breeding ground for so much of the seafood the local communities depend on." After 20 minutes, Jun pointed towards several large fallen trees, half submerged in the water. The wood was dark grey, soft and waterlogged. "Here," he said softly. "This is a good spot." He hopped out, sinking ankle-deep into the soft mud, and beckoned for me to follow. He carried a small axe, a bolo, and waded over to one of the largest logs. "The Tamilok only like the dead wood," he explained. "They help return the tree to the earth." I was still picturing some kind of exotic mushroom. I watched as Jun raised the bolo and brought it down with a sharp, practiced thud. He struck it again and again, sending chunks of wet, pulpy wood flying. He wasn't just hacking away, he was listening, feeling for hollow spots within the trunk. I leaned in, my curiosity at an all-time high. He paused, peering into a crack he had made. A slow smile spread across his face. "Ah, here we are." He carefully wedged the blade in and pried. The log split with a wet, tearing sound, exposing the labyrinth of tunnels inside. And that's when I saw it. My brain just could not process what I was looking at. It wasn't a mushroom. It wasn't a plant. Wriggling slowly from the splintered wood were long, grayish-white, slimy creatures. They looked exactly like giant worms, thick, plump, glistening worms, some as long as my forearm, oozing a milky slime. My jaw dropped. A wave of nausea and disbelief washed over me. My stomach, which moments before had been pleasantly full, did a violent flip. The memory of that cool, slithering sensation in my mouth returned, but this time it was horrifying. I stumbled back, my hand flying to my mouth. "Wait!" I stammered, my voice a whisper. What are those?" June looked up, confused by my reaction. Then, seeing the horror on my face, he understood. He began to laugh, a deep, booming laugh that echoed through the mangroves. "That," he said, still chuckling, as he reached into the wood and pulled one out with his bare hands. It dangled from his fingers, long and limp, and grotesquely worm-like. "That is Tamilok." I stared at the thing in his hand, at its featureless, slimy body, and then back at the log which was crawling with dozens more. My special pudding. My strange and wonderful delicacy. It was a worm, a giant, slimy woodworm. "Wait, that's what I ate?" I finally choked out, pointing a trembling finger at the writhing creature. My mind was reeling, trying to reconcile the delicious memory with the horrifying reality. The sweet, briny taste, the soft, gelatinous texture. It all came from this. June's laughter subsided into a grin. "Yes, Ma'am Sofia, this is it. Not really a pudding, is it?" He held it up. "We call it a woodworm, but it's not a worm. It's a type of mollusk, like a clam that has lost its shell. It lives its whole life inside the wood, eating it. A mollusk, a shellless clam. Logically, my brain understood. I love oysters and calamari, which are also mollusks. But my eyes, my gut, my entire being was screaming one word: worm. The way it moved, the way it looked. It was the stuff of nightmares, not menus. I watched, paralyzed with disgust and morbid fascination, as Jun expertly harvested more of them, tossing them into a bucket of seawater, where they writhed in a pale, slimy mass. How could something that looked so repellent taste so good? The foodie in me was at war with the part of me that was utterly, primally grossed out. I had eaten worms, and I had loved them. The thought was so absurd I didn't know whether to laugh or be sick. Jun finished his harvest and looked at me, his expression one of gentle amusement. "So," he said, a twinkle in his eye, "now that you know the secret, are you still hungry?" The journey back was a quiet one on my part. I just stared at the bucket of writhing Tamilok, my mind a battlefield. One moment I was a gastronomic hero, the next I was the girl from Madrid who happily devoured a bowl of giant woodworms. Back at the restaurant, Elena was waiting. She saw my pale, shell-shocked face and stifled a giggle. "So," she said, her eyes sparkling, "you have met the cook." I could only nod. I watched as she began to prepare the fresh harvest. She rinsed them in clean water, squeezed out the dark, digested wood from inside, and placed the cleaned, pearly white bodies into a fresh bowl. They looked exactly like what I had eaten before. My stomach lurched. It's one thing to eat something in blissful ignorance. It's another thing entirely to eat it while staring the truth right in the face. This was the real test. The first time was an accident. This time, it would be a choice. Elena sat next to me. "Sofia," she said kindly, "your mind sees a worm, but it is not a worm. It is a gift of the sea and the trees. Here in the Philippines, we learn not to judge our food by how it looks, but by how it sustains us and tastes. It's clean and fresh. Jun joined us, holding a small bowl of fresh dipping sauce, coconut vinegar, red chilies, chopped onions, and a squeeze of calamansi. "This is kinilo," he said. "It's how we eat fresh seafood. The vinegar cooks it." He was trying to give me a reference point, connecting it to ceviche, a dish I knew and loved. The explanation helped. It was culinary logic to counteract the primal fear. A mollusk, eaten like ceviche. I repeated this in my head. "The first time you ate with your mouth," Elena said softly. "This time you must be brave." The challenge was laid down. Could I consciously, willingly eat a woodworm? I took a deep breath. "Okay," I said, my voice shaky. "Okay, I will try it again." Jun and Elena beamed. I picked up my spoon, which felt 10 times heavier now. I selected the smallest one, dipped it into the spicy vinegar, and repeated my mantra. It's an oyster, it's a clam, it's ceviche. And then I ate it. The sensation was completely different. My brain was screaming, "Worm!" and every part of me wanted to spit it out. The sliminess was no longer a novelty, it was the main event. I had to consciously fight my own gag reflex. But then I forced myself to focus only on the taste, and beneath the chaos, there it was. The same delicate, briny flavor, the same subtle, milky sweetness, the bright explosion of the vinegar and chili. It was still undeniably delicious. My eyes snapped open. A slow smile spread across my face. "I can't believe it," I whispered. "I can't believe I like this." Jun and Elena erupted in applause. I had passed the real test. The first time, my pleasure was based on ignorance. This time, it was deeper, a pleasure born from overcoming a mental barrier. The flavor was now tinged with victory. I took another, this time with more confidence. The initial revulsion faded, replaced by a real appreciation. I was tasting the mangroves, the sea, the wood. I was tasting the essence of this place. My final verdict? Eating Tamilok is a 2-act play. Act 1 is the blind taste test, where you'll likely be intrigued by its unique, oyster-like flavor. You'll focus on the clean, fresh taste of the sea. Act 2 begins with the reveal. This is the mental challenge. Knowing it's a worm-like mollusk from a rotting log is a huge hurdle. Your first bite is a battle with your own mind. Is it still good? Yes, absolutely. But it's a different kind of good. It's the complex, satisfying pleasure of facing a food challenge and discovering your preconceptions were the only thing holding you back. It tasted of adventure. I spent the rest of the afternoon with Elena and Jun, sharing stories and laughing about my initial horror. They explained that while Tamilok is a delicacy found in mangrove areas across the Philippines, sharing it fresh from the harvest is a sign of true hospitality. The fact that they had shared it with me, a stranger from Spain, felt like a genuine honor. They had shared a piece of their world with me. This whole crazy adventure is what I love most about travel. It's not just about seeing beautiful places. It's about these moments of connection that push you out of your comfort zone. 1 hour I was blissfully eating a pudding. The next, I was confronting a woodworm. The food didn't change, but I did. My perspective shifted entirely, and that's a souvenir you can't buy in any shop. I came to Davao looking for new flavors and found an adventure that fed my stomach and my soul. A huge thank you to Elena and Jun for their kindness, their laughter, and for sharing their incredible Tamilok with me. This was, by far, the most shocking food surprise of my life. The journey from delight to disgust and back again was a total roller coaster. What is the absolute weirdest, most shocking thing you have ever eaten on your travels? Was it good? Did you know what it was before you put it in your mouth? Let me know the whole story in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear them all. And of course, if you enjoyed coming along on this bizarre and slimy adventure, please give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe for more travels, more food, and probably more moments of me being completely shocked. Thanks for watching and see you on the next adventure.